psychological safety. Now, this has been talked about in workplaces all over the world, and rightly so. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about psychological safety. So, what is it, what does it mean, and why do you need to know about it? I'll go through the benefits of creating a psychological safe workplace, and the crucial bit, I'm going to discuss how to take it from concept into reality using my 5 pillars of psychological safety. Before we delve in, let me take a second to introduce myself. I'm Gina Battye. I'm a world-renowned psychological safety and LGBT inclusion consultant and trainer. I work with multinational corporations, Fortune 500s, TV, film and the global press. You may have seen me and my work featured on, Sky News, the BBC, in Forbes magazine, Psychologies, Cosmopolitan, Pink News, Vice, Diva, Curve, to name a few. Before I started my own consultancy, training and media company, I was a teacher. I went through a really intense period of bullying at work for being gay, and as a result, I wasn't able to bring my whole self to work. I literally wore a mask to work every single day. But this had a significant impact on my physical and my mental health, not to mention my relationships with colleagues and my teaching. It was this experience that led me to create the 5 pillars of psychological safety. Inspired and frustrated all at the same time by the bullying, I decided to leave my job behind and I set up my own company focusing on consultancy and training on how to create psychologically safe workplaces, how to embed those 5 pillars of psychological safety into everyday working for multinational corporations, and training on LGBT inclusion. What is psychological safety? Let's start with where the term came from. The term psychological safety was originally defined by William Kahn, spelled K-A-H-N. He described it as being able to show and employ oneself without fear of negative consequences of self-image, status, or career. Psychological safety became a crucial part of Amy Edmondson's research, a professor at Harvard Business School. And in 2012, psychological safety was identified by Google as one of the most important aspects of building a successful team, as part of a 2-year study that they conducted. Amy Edmondson defined psychological safety as, in a workplace, psychological safety is the belief that the environment is safe for interpersonal risk-taking. People feel able to speak up when needed with relevant ideas, questions or concerns without being shut down. Taking Amy Edmondson's psychological safety research one step further, and inspired by my own experiences of workplace bullying, I created the 5 pillars of psychological safety. And I'm going to introduce you to those in a few minutes' time. You've heard Kahn and Amy Edmondson's definition of psychological safety. So here's mine. Psychological safety in the workplace, for me, means that every single person in an organisation is able to bring their whole self to work. No hiding, no censoring, and no pretending to be someone else. From this space, people communicate and collaborate effectively, and a culture of curiosity and creativity is cultivated. That being said, this is a sharp contrast to what you will experience and witness in the majority of workplaces around the world. In March 2019, the Society for Human Resource Management, they published their recent research on workplace violence, and it stated that 1 out of 7 employees don't feel safe at work. Now, back in 2018, Stonewall produced the LGBT in Britain Work Report. Now, I'm sure that you've read it or come across this at some point. There were 3 statistics in there that really stood out for me that I'd like to share with you. Number 1, 35% of LGBT staff have hidden or disguised that they're LGBT at work because they're afraid of discrimination. Number 2, 26% aren't open with anyone at work about being trans. Now this number increases to 37% of non-binary people who aren't out at work. And the third statistic, 31% of non-binary people and 18% of trans people don't feel able to wear work attire representing their gender expression. You might be asking yourself, why do I need to know about psychological safety? Well, here's why. I work with multinational corporations on psychological safety and LGBT plus inclusion, and it is clear that a lack of psychological safety in the workplace is a global issue. And in my opinion, it's only getting worse. It is rare to find a workplace that is psychologically safe and actively encourages employees to bring their whole self to work. Those statistics that I just read to you, they reflect that. It isn't just down to you or the senior leaders to cultivate this environment either. Creating a psychologically safe and fully inclusive working environment is down to everyone in your organisation. Yet, it appears to be the responsibility of no one. You know, a few people are talking about it behind closed doors, like top-level blue sky thinking. No real tangible actions and steps are outlined to make this a reality. Except for, maybe an hour or two of basic awareness training, which once it's delivered, the box is ticked. There's talk about making the awareness training mandatory for all, but then life and work move on, don't they? And the notes are filed away and conversations fade away. Nothing has changed. The intention was there, but they didn't know how to turn it from blue sky thinking into a reality for the organisation. Well, do you know what? That just isn't good enough. You spend the majority of your waking hours at work to show up and not feel safe, to pretend that you're someone that you're not, to suppress your natural behaviours and have to triple think everything that you say before you say it. No wonder the UK and the US face a significant mental health challenge at work. There was this report that came out, I think it was October 2017, and it's called the Thriving at Work Report. Go and check it out. And in it, it states, I hope I get this right, that there's a large annual cost to employers of between £33 billion and £42 billion, with over half of that cost coming from presenteeism, which is where individuals are less productive due to poor mental health in work, with additional costs coming from sickness absence and staff turnover. What are the benefits of creating a psychologically safe workplace? Well, here are a few to consider that are at the top of my mind at the moment, I guess. I'm going to fire them off. Communication opens up, creating deeper connections between individuals and teams. People talk. They interact, they ask questions, they talk about their concerns, they voice their ideas. And when there's conflict or tension, it happens, it's resolved immediately. Respect and trust are established and interactions become more meaningful in teams. Lessons are learned and errors are viewed as learning opportunity. We've got this whole environment of continuous learning and reflection that's taking place. Creativity and innovation are sparked, and collaboration and teamwork become effortless. People act on their initiative instead of waiting to be instructed or guided. Loyalty is increased with more commitment from employees to the organisation. Workplace satisfaction is elevated and people actually enjoy their work. They want to come to work. How about that? And because people enjoy their work, your organisation experiences higher levels of engagement and active participation. People feel valued, included and inspired to contribute more. Confidence levels, they skyrocket, which increases and creates a positive working environment for everyone. And this in turn has a dramatic effect on mental and physical well-being of your employees, which then results in your people feeling safe and comfortable to bring their whole self into the workplace. No hiding, no censoring, literally showing up as their true selves, bringing with them all of their life experience, their knowledge and their skills. That's what you hired them for, right? A diverse and talented workforce. Well, now you can see that in action. And your return on investment, let's say your people are happy, they're thriving at work, and you see performance and productivity go through the roof. That sounds good, right? I know. But listen, how do you take psychological safety from a concept into reality? Until now, there was no blueprint for creating psychological safety in workplaces, a cohesive plan to take it from concept to reality. From my observations working with ex-offenders, through to teaching in workplaces, and more recently consulting and training multinational corporations on psychological safety and LGBT plus inclusion, I could see very clearly that there are 5 key areas that organisations need to address. I created the blueprint for psychological safety, and I refer to them as the 5 pillars of psychological safety. The first pillar is self. Self refers to you, who you are, what influences your thoughts and your behaviour, how you cope with life, how you show up in the workplace. Because let's face it, when you go into work, you don't leave your baggage at home, do you? You bring it all with you. By raising your awareness about yourself, you will feel confident and empowered to bring all of who you are into the workplace. So where did this first pillar come from? What was the thinking behind it? Well, it was during my time working with ex-offenders that I created the Authentic Self process. It was about maybe 15 years ago or so. Now, the Authentic Self process is an extraordinary, powerful 3-step system to release the masks that you wear and to bring all of who you are into work and life. Reflecting on my observations, my interactions and my experiences within the probation service and with ex-offenders, I learned that every single person that I taught and spoke to, they'd lost their connection to their authentic self, their true self. They'd lost touch with who they are. And in the process, they'd almost kind of morph themselves into someone that they thought would be more accepted or loved by those around them. Now, we all do that, okay? Some of the people that I spoke with had put up barriers to protect themselves from being hurt any further, whilst others, well, it was kind of weird. They'd lived up to the expectations that their peers and their family had of them. So that's where it came from. The Authentic Self process is the foundational building block, if you like, for the 5 pillars of psychological safety. Because without understanding yourself, you're going to struggle to bring your whole self into the workplace and empower others to do so too. The second pillar is social. And this refers to how you interact with other people. So imagine, okay, that everything that you've just uncovered about yourself, well, the person at the next desk to you has all that going on within them too. So now that you know all this, social takes you through what is going on behind the scenes of your interactions with others, what influences how you respond and react in conversations, and how to use this knowledge to strengthen your interactions and connections with other people. The third pillar is collaboration. This refers to how you cultivate trust and work in collaboration with others. So here we look at the environment, the culture of the organisation, and how to empower and enable effective collaboration in teams. Safe spaces, ground rules, conflict resolution plans, the 4 steps to effective communication, and the foundations for exceptional team working. These are all integral to powerful collaboration. The 4th pillar is curiosity, and this refers to creating a culture of experimentation, contribution, and reflective questioning. Here, mistakes are made and lessons are learned. Constructive and active feedback is sought and received, and there's a willingness to learn both professionally and personally. And lastly, the 5th pillar is creativity, and this refers to creating a culture where new ideas and alternative perspectives are welcomed. Here, everyone has a voice, and all ideas are valued, considered, and discussed openly. The 5 pillars of psychological safety and the Authentic Self process. These are principles and teachings that are applicable to workplaces and their people around the globe. In essence, they cultivate an environment where people thrive. I hope that brief introduction to psychological safety and the 5 pillars of psychological safety have been incredibly useful and thought-provoking for you. Now, I want to hand it over to you. I want you to consider your organisation right now. How would you rate your organisation in each of these 5 pillars? So here's what I want you to do. I want you to draw yourself a circle on a piece of paper. Something like this. Let me just see if I can... There we go. Something like this. I want you to divide that circle into 5 different segments and write the name of each pillar on the outside edge. So here we've got pillar 1, which is self, pillar 2, which is social, pillar 3 is collaboration, pillar 4 is curiosity, and pillar 5 is creativity. So I want you to divide it into those 5 segments and write the name of each pillar on the outside edge of that circle. And I want you to imagine that the centre is a score of 0 and the outer edge is a score of 10. I want you to consider each of the 5 pillars in turn and rate your organisation in terms of where you are right now. And to do that, I want you to put a cross in the section. So here you can see that that's the 5 point here, between 0 and 10. And I think for pillar 1, maybe we're around a 6. So I'm going to place it just there. That's what I want you to do for each of the 5 pillars. So I'm going to ask you a few questions for each of the pillars to get you really thinking now. For the self pillar, where do you think your organisation is currently in terms of people being self-aware and bringing their whole self into the workplace? For the social pillar, how would you rate your organisation in terms of how people communicate and interact with each other? And how effective are the interactions between individuals? And how strong are the connections between people? For the collaboration pillar, which is pillar 3, how would you rate your organisation in terms of cultivating an environment of trust and collaboration with others? How effective is team working, conflict resolution, and communication between teams and departments? The 4th pillar, curiosity, how would you rate your organisation in terms of there being a culture of experimentation, contribution, and reflective practice? And finally, the 5th pillar, the creativity pillar, how would you rate your organisation in terms of everyone having a voice and all ideas being valued, considered, and discussed openly? I'm going to give you some time to think about that now, and I'll be back with you in a moment.